And so sleep is really important. Again, inflammation affects sleep, blood sugar affects sleep, and adequate levels of magnesium and amino acids that become the building blocks of melatonin play a big role with sleep. So if we're not getting enough good proteins, that's a problem. If we're not digesting those proteins, that's a problem. Infections can affect that. Not enough HCl, not enough enzyme. Just a poor diet can cause that. Too much carbs create blood sugar swings, and that can cause increases in cortisol. And cortisol and melatonin are on an opposite rhythm. So as cortisol goes up, melatonin goes down. So if you're doing things that affect your cortisol, you may have low melatonin. Low melatonin will be harder to get into those deeper phases of sleep where a lot of repair and regeneration happen.
Yeah, my first book was on sleep. It was called REM Rehab. I still sell it, although I don't promote it much. And it was all because I suffered significantly from sleep issues after coming off third shift to pay for college. It
Oh,
was just,
totally.
oh man, my sleep was a wreck. I mean, I would work from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. I would sleep all day. My circadian rhythm was wrecked. And in the process, my gut was wrecked too. So I kind of covered the impact of the cortisol and the melatonin rhythm. If that's screwed up, your gut can be screwed up too. There's a circadian rhythm to detoxification. There's a circadian rhythm to gut motility. And all that was messed up when you're working night shift or when you're working swing shift. There's nurses, several studies on night shift nurses having a massive increase in breast cancer. I interviewed a guy, Dr. Richard Hansler. Hopefully he's still alive. He'll literally be pushing 100 by now. When I interviewed him years ago, he was one of my early podcast guests, like 2012. He was like 93. So yeah, he's probably 100. Hope I haven't seen any death reports. Hopefully he's still alive. But man, this guy blew my mind on sleep. You know, he developed brighter and more blue light bulbs for GE for decades. And he has a tremendous amount of guilt because of what he did, which was creating brighter, more
Wow.
blue light bulbs. And so now he's really educating people on sleep, and sleep during pregnancy has actually been shown to reduce the risk of issues in the offspring. So for pregnant women listening, you really got to prioritize this and make sure you're candling down at night. We use salt lamps, we use night lights. We just have a bedtime routine of, we try to just not do anything too intense mentally. Like I'm not going to open up a spreadsheet at 9 p.m. I'm just not going to. I'm going to try to focus on things. I'm going to do either a guided meditation with headphones, or I'm going to do some jazz music or classical music or something. You've got to have some sort of, I would just say, downshift. And that was actually one of the things in that Blue Zone study is one of they call it the Power Nine. These are these 9 evidence-based denominators that the 100-year-olds believe to slow the aging process. One of those was downshifting. And they always talk about how this culture does this and that culture does that. But anyway, it was either prayer, it was napping, it was meditation, it was some sort of downshift. And I think in American society, that's not really welcomed. It's not welcome to downshift because it's hustle, 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 work, work, work. You're not working hard enough. That's why you're not successful. But I think part of success comes from that downshift and prioritizing sleep. Even Jeff Bezos says, no matter what he does, whether you like the guy or not, whatever he says, 8 hours of sleep is a priority for him. No matter what part of the world he's in, he's prioritizing those 8 hours because it impacts your decision making and all of that. So, I mean, this thing, sleep is like that spider web that goes into every aspect of your life, your mood, your emotional regulation, decision making, all of it.
Yeah, and I've made a really big priority the last 2 months to really get to bed by 10:30 every night. So I'm getting to bed by 10:30, 11 at the latest, and I'm sleeping minimum 8 hours a night. Makes a big difference, especially getting to bed before 12 really does help. And so, different nutritional strategies that I'll plug in to help. I'll do some GABA, some L-theanine. I'll do some magnesium. And again, high levels of blood sugar, right? One of the biggest impacts when there's studies on taking college kids and making them pre-diabetic by, well, one, that what they did is they actually restricted their sleep. And the first side effect they saw restricting these college kids' sleep after a couple of weeks was they started turning pre-diabetic. Their blood sugar levels started getting off. So it's kind of like we talk about blood sugar, right? You don't just have to have poor diet to have blood sugar issues. You can have aberrant stress hormones because of poor sleep, right? And so it's like when you have one problem, that one can turn to two, two can turn to three. It's kind of like the old Gremlins movie when you put water on them, they multiply. It's kind of like that. So like a lot of these issues, when you start to have one, you're going to have two. When you start to have two, you're going to have three because things spiral out of control. And then also when you start having blood sugar issues and poor sleep, guess what starts to happen to your cravings? Well, you start craving more refined processed food, and then that starts to create more issues with blood sugar, which then makes more issues with sleep. You see how all these things kind of, they spiral out of control, man. It's like water on the Gremlins. So yeah, you got to keep an eye on that. Really prioritize sleep. Understand how everything connects. If you understand how it connects, I think it gives you a lot more motivation to have those foundationals like really solidified.